Now, game week 37 is gone all right for me so far. I've scored 40 points and I'm in 23k overall. And here are my transfer plans for the final time this season. All right, we will just start off then by looking at how the team's gotten on in game week 37. And I would say it's a week of benching drama. So in one case, on my deadline stream anyway, when I started, I had Concert on my bench and I was starting both Guardiola and Ruben Dias. As you can see, they're both in my starting lineup. That's because Isak didn't play. I don't think anyone could have foreseen Isak not playing against Arsenal. That was kind of an out of the blue thing that happened. But at the time, Ruben Dias was starting for me. Concert was on my bench. I made the late move to bring in Concert because I thought, wow, they're playing Tottenham. Tottenham, based on the comments of Ange, had basically given up for that game. You know, they were just full focus for the Europa League final, try not to get any injuries. I was like, well, that looks like a pretty good chance of a clean sheet for Aston Villa. Obviously, I got the clean sheet, but I also got a goal. So I'm really happy with that. I think, well, he's my top scoring player this week and pretty much has scored almost half the points of my entire team, to be honest. So, yeah, very pleased with Ezri Konsa. I then had a bit of a benching drama with my goalkeepers. So Raya kept a clean sheet and made some saves against Newcastle. And then I had Areola against Nottingham Forest. And I watched the beginning of the Forest West Ham game, sat with my dad, and I saw the Areola mistake. And I had my head in my hands straight away. I was like, oh no, this is not the right decision. And yeah, it turned out not to be. There's only 5 points in it though. So it's not, you know, in terms of benching decisions this week, I think they realistically have gone my way, given I've got 15 points from Konsa. But yeah, I'm a little bit annoyed that I started Areola over Raya. My thinking behind that was, well, at the time, I had Raya playing Isak, and I thought, well, that feels a little bit counterproductive. If I believe Isak is going to do well this week to the point that I'm going to start him, that should mean I probably shouldn't start any of my Arsenal defenders, right? I didn't, but, you know, it didn't pay off. So you've still got Guardiola, Munoz, Ruben Dias, Sarr, and Haaland all yet to play. Don't think, well, I don't know. Will there be much of a hangover from Man City from that FA Cup? No, I actually think losing the FA Cup final will actually give them a bit of a drive to win their game against Bournemouth. So yeah, I'm okay with my Man City assets. I think they'll do all right. I'm a little bit worried about them actually keeping a clean sheet, but other than that, I think I'll do all right. Crystal Palace, on the other hand, have just won the FA Cup. I don't know if it's the first major trophy Crystal Palace has ever won. I don't know. I'm not a historical... I don't have the historical knowledge. But they don't win trophies very often. So this is a massive win for them. And I think I didn't actually predict them to win that game. I did think Man City would do it, which is why I started Ismaila Sarr. But I'm a little bit worried about what that means for how Crystal Palace now perform against Wolves. I'm still happy, I guess, to have Munoz and Sarr. I mean, ultimately, the bench alternatives to them, Jacob Murphy scored 2 points, and Saliba, well, we'll talk about him in a second, but he got subbed off at half-time with, well, what could be an injury. I guess we'll see on that one. So, yeah, I mean, whilst I'm a little bit unsure about Crystal Palace, the players on my bench didn't do very well, so there's nothing, you know, nothing too much to worry about. And, yeah, like I said, I'm hopeful Man City can pull something out against Bournemouth. I think it would be lovely, well, no, I don't think, it would be lovely if Haaland could actually score me some points this week. Other than that, we have Rodgers with an assist, Mbeumo with returns, an unfortunate blank for Schade, his first blank since he's actually been in my team, so I suppose it was due one. And then Watkins, had him as my captain. Yeah, he doesn't necessarily turn out to be the best captain this week, but, you know, considering the level of returns that other players have gotten so far, just an assist is all right, I suppose. I'll take it. The one worry I do have is Salah. I sold Salah last week to get Haaland into my team. And I still, you know, on the whole, I think that was the right move because, you know, Liverpool are already proven to be on the beach. They were in Dubai last week on holiday. Arne Slot was seen in Ocean Beach as well. So they're on their holidays already. So I just have a feeling, though, that Salah still turns up against Brighton and does something. Yeah, I'm a little bit worried about Salah. I don't have him. And yeah, that could really hurt my rank if he does well. But yeah, other than that, that's my team. My worry, obviously, being Mo Salah and what he can do against Brighton. Yeah, I've still got, how many is that? 5 players left to play. All right, so here's how my team is looking then going into Game Week 38. And, well, you can immediately see here there's a couple of issues. So, Saliba being subbed off at halftime in the Newcastle game and Isak being in my team. I think I don't think I need to sell Saliba, but I think I probably do need to maybe use my final transfer on Isak. If we don't get any positive news about his fitness status, I probably do have to use a transfer on him. We'll talk about what I'll do there in a second. So we've got Raya in goal against Southampton, who is currently joint with Sells for the Golden Glove. So I think he's going to have extra motivation to try and keep a clean sheet. And whilst Arteta literally said after the game against Newcastle that it's time to go to the beach, I still think Arsenal will be motivated to at least keep a clean sheet in that game. And it's Southampton away, you know, it's one of the best fixtures you can ask for. We've got Munoz, who has Liverpool away. Now, they haven't played Brighton at the time that I'm recording this video, but final game of the season, trophy lift potentially at Anfield. I am a little bit worried about that one for Munoz, but maybe I could start Ruben Diaz over Saliba, or Konsa even against Man United could come in as well, to be fair. I don't think that would be the worst thing in the world. So I do have cover if I don't fancy starting Munoz, but I just think he's been so good this season, it would be really hard for me to leave him on my bench. And speaking of Saliba, I do have a little bit of a question mark, I guess, on if he's not fit and not ready to play, which I think he probably isn't. Do I bring in Ruben Diaz against Fulham, or do I bring in Konsa against Man United? That's a tough call. I don't actually think I need to make any transfers in my defence, I'll be totally honest. We'll talk about, you know, I'll go through some data behind that. But yeah, I think I could just make moves with my subs, basically. Midfield being Mbeumo, Schade, Sarr and Rodgers. Similar to the point about Munoz, I've got the same sort of feeling about Sarr against Liverpool away. This game could go either way for me. You know, Liverpool could be completely on the beach and just roll over for Crystal Palace, or, you know, it could be the trophy lift at Anfield game in their minds and they want to put in a good performance and win the game. I'm never saying that Liverpool will roll over. That's probably a bit of a misspeak there for me, but you know what I mean. I do have Murphy on my bench with Everton at home as his fixture, so I think that's a perfectly decent, you know, replacement for Ismaila Sarr. And then I've got Rodgers against Man United, and obviously Mbeumo and Schade are both playing Wolves. I think that's a couple of good fixtures. Up front, I'm looking at Haaland, Isak and Watkins. I don't think I can get rid of Haaland. I don't think I can get rid of Watkins. I think they're amongst the best forwards in the game for next week. And then it's Isak, who obviously missed the Arsenal game with a groin injury, and I think looks quite likely that he'll miss Game Week 38 as well. So I could do something about Isak. But before I do that, I'll go through the clean sheet odds just to see where I'm at in terms of starting defenders. All right, so here we've got some clean sheet data courtesy of Rob T FPL. Top teams then for clean sheet odds. We do have Arsenal up there. I still think their clean sheet odds are good. Obviously, they've now qualified for the Champions League, and Arteta has literally used the word beach in a press conference after their game against Newcastle. Maybe that's to psych out Southampton in a way. I don't know. I mean, Arteta loves a bit of drama and mind games and press conferences, doesn't he? I do actually believe his comment, though. I still think with Raya chasing the Golden Glove that they will try to do something to keep a clean sheet. I think against Southampton, of course they will, right? They're not going to just completely roll over. So they've got good clean sheet odds. So I think Raya is safe, obviously. But then it's a case of what's happening with Saliba. If he's fit, I think I'm going to start him. But yeah, I don't necessarily think that he will be. Other top teams for clean sheet odds, well, we're looking at Liverpool, we're looking at Newcastle, and we're looking at Bournemouth. And unfortunately, I don't have any cover from either of those teams. I do, however, have Ruben Diaz, Guardiola from Man City, who I think, you know, it's the last. I think they might have slightly better odds than that against Fulham. And then I've got Konsa against Man United. I think the clean sheet odds, particularly for Aston Villa, are probably a little bit higher than that as well. Crystal Palace with an 8% chance of keeping a clean sheet against Liverpool does make Munoz a less attractive prospect, to be fair. But again, I just go back to that point I made. Clean sheet odds, I think they look good enough that I just don't need to make a transfer. And just in general, or at least defensively, and just in general, I think if I've got my last transfer of the season, I don't really want to be spending that on a defender. So I'm looking at the projected goals, similar from Rob TFPL as well. There's plenty of teams there who are predicted to score, well, over 1.5 goals, which suggests they'll score a couple of goals in their game. So that is Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Villa, Bournemouth, Chelsea, Newcastle, Brighton, Tottenham, Wolves, and West Ham, right? So all of those teams, I suggest, they're probably going to score goals this week, right? But I think for me, there are two key factors that I would look for in a player to transfer in. Number one is that they've got a good fixture, right? That's number one. And number two is that they still have something left to play for. Because if teams have something left to play for, they're not going to be rotating and there's not going to be like any surprises in their lineups. And I'm looking through this list of teams with something left to play for that have a pretty good fixture. I'm looking at Villa. I'm looking at Bournemouth. I'm looking at Newcastle. That's probably it. Maybe Brentford against Wolves as well. But obviously, depending on how the Man City Bournemouth game goes and the rest of the game week 37 plays out, that could, I think, rule Bournemouth out of European competition. But right now, they're kind of still in the hunt. And they've got Leicester at home, for example. So I do think Bournemouth could be quite a nice team to look at. And with that in mind, I'm thinking, well, the Man City Bournemouth game's going on tonight, right? So if he gets injured, this video is going to go out at like 4 p.m. on Monday. If he gets injured in that game, then I'm in a bit of trouble, of course. But right now, I'm looking at all of the players available in the game, and I think Evan Nilsson is probably my best transfer in. I've got Isak, who could potentially be missing that Everton game. I think he probably does. And then I'm looking at Evan Nilsson with Leicester at home. And for me, you know, Kluivert has probably been the star Bournemouth asset this season, but his form has dipped a little bit, his Kluivert's. Whereas Evan Nilsson, I feel like, is the form Bournemouth attacker at the moment. And yeah, he's got Leicester at home. I think, you know, Bournemouth should have something to play for in Game Week 38. They should have motivation to win the game to at least just give them any hope of qualifying for that European place. And yeah, I think Evan Nilsson is their star player. I don't really, well, their star player at the moment. I don't think I need to explain that decision anymore. I mean, I look at the rest of this team, and I just don't see, you know, I can make most of my moves just from my bench. Like if Saliba doesn't play, I can bring Konsa or Ruben Diaz in. If I don't fancy Munoz, I can do the same. If I don't fancy Sarr, I can bring Murphy in. But the only real issue I've got, I think, is with Isak. Yeah, I think Evan Nilsson is my best replacement. So unless anything drastic happens amongst the games in Game Week 37, I think I'm going to go for Evan Nilsson. The final thing to decide then is who to captain. And, well, I made an Ultimate Guide video yesterday, and I think it just proves that FPL videos have just like a one-day shelf life. Because almost immediately after that, I named Saka as who I think was my favourite captain. And then obviously Arteta said that Arsenal will be on the beach. So, I don't know. Is Saka now the best captain? The expected points certainly say so. And I think he probably does play that game. But Arsenal now do not have high motivation to absolutely, you know, trounce Southampton because they've qualified for the Champions League. So who's the next best captain after that? I'm looking through the list. Both have Isak in there, who obviously I think is a bit too risky at the moment. Other players in my team that appear on the Fantasy Football Hub list, where we've got Haaland against Fulham, and obviously Evan Nilsson against Leicester. And I'm really tempted, to be honest, to bring in, unless I captain Haaland, which I think is not a bad move, but we haven't seen a lot from Haaland since he's returned. Unless anything like drastic happens with Haaland, I think I'm going to be bringing in Evan Nilsson and captaining him. I think that'd be quite a fun way to play out the end of the season. All right, well, that's the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed that and found it useful. If you did, please leave me a like rating. Let me know in the comments if there's any other changes you'd make to my team that I didn't mention there. I'm always interested in other people's opinions. Please be polite about it in the comments. And yeah, this video has been a little bit shorter than my other transfer plans videos. You know, usually there's a little bit more to talk about. We've got one game week left to go this season, and I have one free transfer left to use. So hopefully this video summarizes quite nicely why I've not decided to bring in a midfielder or a defender, because I just don't think I need to with the options that I have, and why I think bringing in Evan Nilsson is probably my best move. I just don't see another smart transfer there. So yeah, that's everything. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more content from me, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe to the Golden Goal channel, which should be just here on your screen. You can always guarantee I'll be one of the first FPL YouTubers to have something out for the new season. When that comes around, I've got a little bit of content planned for over the summer. I'm not grifting anything. I think there's a few useful, helpful videos I can make during the summer break, so I'll definitely be getting onto that once the season finishes. Yeah, I'll catch you in my next video.